Now, diminishing musharaka. Diminishing musharaka is a musharaka, so the rulings of musharaka will apply. Musharaka agreement, buyer's promise, sale or purchase of shares, all will be independent contracts. So what are the things we have in diminishing musharaka? Firstly, it's a musharaka, it's a joint ownership. Then we have a lease contract, right? Usually if there is an ijara component as well. Otherwise, there is a wa'ad, there is a promise by the client that he will purchase the shares of the IFI. And finally, there is a transfer of shares through a sale agreement or through a hiba. So all 3 or 4 documents and agreements need to be separate and needs to come as sequence. So we cannot just sign everything all together. It has to be, because there is a sequence, it has to come at a sequence. Like for example, the final transfer or sale agreement, if you sign it before on day 1, then there is no point that the IFI is charging any rental if there is an ijara, because the whole ownership belongs to the client. So it all has to come at sequence. The binding promise. So the client will usually give a binding promise that I will purchase. Now, can that binding promise include a price agreed upon? Like, can it say, I will purchase IFI share at X amount? Cannot. Rather, he can say at a value to be agreed upon or at a market value. If he puts the price as well, it makes it more like a contract. And then, can we do a contract for a future date, a sale contract for a future date? We cannot. We discussed this during the Gharar slide, if you recall. All right. I see some hands being raised. Please ask the question in the Q&A. We try to finish first and then we will address the questions, inshallah. Okay. Not permitted to stipulate equity to be acquired at a face value. This is the same thing that I mentioned. Not permitted to stipulate that one partner should bear at all the cost of insurance or maintenance. Remember, in diminishing musharaka, they both are owners, co-owners, joint owners. I find the client, right? So when you are joint owner and there is any expense related to ownership, for example, insurance costs, for example, fundamental maintenance, you cannot pass it to one of the owners. This is a gross injustice or zulm. So it has to be always shared between the partners based on their share ratio. So if someone is owning only 10%, then he will bear only 10% of the total cost. One partner can rent or lease the share of the other partner. So this is what happens in diminishing musharaka. The client rents out, rents or leases the portion of the IFI. So this is permissible, no issue. This session was brought to you by TAIF and Adl. If you have benefited from it, please share in your social media platforms about both the entities and share the word. Spread the word. Jazakumullah khairan.